Welcome to the third episode of the Spin Axis podcast. I'm Erik Barzeski.
I'm Jayson Nickol.
And I'm Tyson Deskins.
This episode of the Spin Axis is brought to you by the Stack System. Created by Dr. Sasha McKenzie, one of the leading biomechanists in golf, and Ping Vice President of Fitting and Performance, Marty Jertson, you know the Stack System as the game-changing app and club with 30 interchangeable weight combinations. But the Stack System owners also get an AI-driven putting and wedge mode now that can help you hone in on and help you improve your game inside of 150 yards. Spin Axis listeners can save 10% with the code SPINAXIS at thestacksystem.com. This week we're going to do something a bit different. We did a little snake draft to choose our favorite drills. We don't all love the same things, and we'll play devil's advocate a little bit throughout this process. Also, it's important to note that, like almost everything in life, the exact situation depends on a lot of factors. So we're talking very generally here with these drills. Jayson, you had the first draft pick. What drill do you love?
One of my favorite drills, because I like working with golfers from the ground up, is to make sure that their knees are working properly in their swing. I've seen a lot of golfers lately where their lead knee isn't working, let's say, as optimal as it is, and it's actually jamming up their pelvis moving through the rest of the swing. So what I like putting is this nice, thick, wide exercise band on a golfer's, just their thighs above their kneecaps. And what they need to do is they need to keep the same resistance that they had in their address position throughout the swing. If they start separating their legs, they'll feel this big stretch between them instead of what you want, which is that consistent. And that allows golfers to make much better turns in their swings. Obviously, it helps with like syncing up the rest of the swing. It's one of my favorite.
So, on the downswing mostly?
No, it actually, for the start of the swing, a lot of golfers don't let the lead knee flex in enough. I've actually seen golfers, their lead knee kicks out to start their backswing, which then it just, you imagine you're just pulling your pelvis apart at that time. Yeah, you can't make a nice hip turn if your pelvis is already stretched before you try and turn it.
What sort of things do you see after you work with that player with that drill and you take that band off? How quickly do you see that really improve?
They usually can sense it instantly. The other one, almost the exact same thing, is you can take like a balloon. If you don't have a fitness band, you can put a balloon between your knees, and you don't want obviously to drop that balloon. And you see this like light bulb moment with a student that was separating their legs as they're trying to move off the golf ball, and all of a sudden it's just like, oh, that's not good. And so then from there they get better weight shift. Their hips actually open properly. They can make a fuller turn. Everything just becomes more like available to them basically, because now the pelvis is moving properly. From there, it goes into the downswing, right? Usually a person that, doesn't bring their knee in, they also fire their knee, quite rapidly, which, we know doesn't actually start the downswing. The pelvis starts the downswing. So then that starts sinking better for them. It's just awesome.
So what are some of the caveats? What are some of the gotchas that you can do it wrong? Or some of the things you have to watch out for?
I would say I have seen golfers keep the lead knee in too long then. Obviously, they go too far the other way where they don't then, once the pelvis goes, they don't then get the leg to go. That would be the only one that I've really seen people struggle with within that drill.
How high above the knees? How close to the knees are you putting that band?
Just about like 2 fingers above the kneecap. You don't want the band to obviously get in the way of the knees, but the lower you can, the more where your knees are starting to stretch out is sort of where you're looking to put that.
And the other caveat being that they don't want to trip and fall on their face.
Also true. Never.
Like what direction do you give them when you put it on? Like, do you just tell them to swing, or are you giving them anything specific to try to do?
As always, practice swing first, right? I want you to really feel what the drill is trying to do for you, right? And I tell them, hey, when you got this band in there, can you feel this little bit of resistance? And they go, yeah, okay, I can feel that. Perfect. I want you to keep that same amount of resistance into your backswing. And often the times I'll also tell them to feed the fault, right? Okay, what does it feel like for you to feel like you're stretching that band even more? Then they get the sense of what's good, what's bad, and then you can obviously then start hitting golf balls with that drill.
I like it.
All right. Sounds good. Tyson, you had the next draft pick.
Yeah, so I would say the first one on my list was the 9-3 drill, hip high to hip high. I've called it through the years, whatever you want to call it. One of the, I think, biggest things that I see on a daily basis is what I will call poor arm structure. players are bending their arms way too much. Not just the lead arm, the trail arm is getting overbent. Then the wrist at the top, they bend too much. Now they can't control inertia and momentum, and the chain reaction starts. So you just get them to slow down, swing the club as if a clock is around them to 9 o'clock, where both arms stay much straighter. They're not really using much wrist to that point, and they're going to 3 o'clock on the way through, helping them control the radius of the golf swing, which gives them center contact. They actually feel what it's like to find the face, see the ball get up in the air where they hit the ground in the right spot, and all of a sudden you see the dots start to connect. Oh, this is what it's supposed to feel like.
I think I would have to tell my students to stop at about 6:15 for them to stop anywhere near 9 o'clock. So how many of your students actually stop at 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock?
Zero. It's what I love about the TrackMan running, right? The video's going the whole time, and I'll make them guess, hey, where do you think you stopped? And they'll say, oh yeah, I stopped at 9 o'clock. And you look at the video and they're at midnight, right? They're at midnight, and then they're at 1 o'clock on the other side. And they're like, there's no way. I swear I stopped at 9. Like, the video doesn't lie. I guess I will go into this, then gives them the confidence once they do that. And I will, if they're not stopping at 9 and 3, I'll put a couple golf clubs out to them. So their club hits my club, right? They start to get that sensation, and then they can do it on their own a few times. And when they do it successfully and they're closer to 9 and 3, then it's like, okay, let's put some force behind this now. We're still stopping at 9 to 3, but let's actually add some force. Let's keep those arms straight. And when you show them the before and after, and they see the breakdown of whichever arm is breaking down in their previous swing to the new one, they now know what it feels like and what it looks like. And now they're on their way to having better arm structure and more solid contact.
Do you worry that, and real quickly, do you worry that some people need to actually bend their arms and hinge their wrists a little bit earlier than that, because then it kind of snaps at the top?
For sure. Absolutely. There are definitely those players out there that need to set that stuff earlier. I would say they also, though, need to learn how to set that stuff while maintaining some tension to not let the inertia and momentum overtake them at the top. And this drill can also be good for those players as well. Just slow down a little bit to feel that, and they're good to go.
All right, Eric, your turn.
All right, so one of my favorite drills is just a simple put an alignment stick about 4 feet out on the target line, angled at about the lie angle of your 6-iron, and the golfer has to hit a ball starting almost with 9 to 3 type swings, and miss the stick on the right side for a right-handed golfer, the high side, right? So they're generating a swing plane that's out to the right a little bit. For newer players who swing way left, I can move that back from the target line a little bit, of course. Most people will deliver a handle that's a little bit higher than the shaft plane at setup, so even if you are swinging perfectly on plane, your club should still generally miss that stick in the ground, or I have some PVC things I made that I can put it on indoor turf.
Do you ever worry that a player is literally crashing into that stick?
Oh, they do it all the time, and then they feel silly, but that's why I put a pool noodle over it. It doesn't really ever hurt anything. Most people will hit like their shaft on it, but if the club head hits a pool noodle, it's not too big of a deal. And they learn pretty quickly. So it goes to, if you change the picture and change what your intent is on the follow through, you have to kind of change where the club is coming from, because you're not really controlling much from, 6 to 8, P6 to P8.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't do enough follow through stuff with my students. That would be definitely a drill. I'll ask you to send it over to me. I'd take a peek at that one for sure.
What type of feedback do those players sort of give you after they do that a couple times?
They often can't believe how far to the right it feels like they're being forced to swing. And I'll say, miss the stick by a foot. That's your only job on this ball. And so they'll often do that. Some of them are surprised that the ball misses the stick because it's on the target line, but the ball is in the air, so it's obviously missing the stick to the right, even if you pull it a little bit. So.
And then how like if somebody's setting that up there themselves, how can you set that up wrong, if you will? Like if I'm trying to do that by myself, is there Is there a guideline for me to set that up properly?
Yeah, just extend your shaft out like to 3 o'clock, kind of like your drill. Put the stick in the middle of the shaft on the target line, angled at about the lie angle of so it kind of matches up with the lie angle of the club you're hitting, 6-iron, 7-iron. If anything, err on the side of being a little bit inside the target line, but right on it's fine for better players.
Yeah, I like that.
Since it's a snake draft, I had 2 in a row, so I came up with a random ladder drill in putting. And so basically what you do, distance control in putting is super important. And so what you do is you take 6 or maybe 8 golf balls, if you're better. You write the numbers 1 through 6 on them each. Number 1 ball, number 2 ball, number 3. You put them in a bag or in a hat or something where you can't see it, your pockets. You pull one out, and you've pre-marked like a rectangle. Maybe it's 10 to 15 feet away from you on the putting green. And you pull out the number 3 ball. Your job is to putt that to a spot where you can fit all the balls in, having putted them all, 1 through 6. So if you get the number 3 ball, you got to kind of fit that into like foot number 12, like, 12 feet away, because then you got to fit ball number 2 and ball number 1 in front of it, and balls number 4, 5, and 6 after it. Distance control is super important in putting, and by forcing yourself to kind of plan not only the line that you're going to hit each of these putts on, but the distance you got to hit each one. If any ball is past the wrong ball or short of the wrong ball or isn't in the rectangle, you lose and start again.
Oh, I like that. That's good.
How big did you say the rectangle or square is that you set up?
You can vary that by, newer players or poorer players can make the rectangle bigger and closer to them. Better players might make a 8-foot rectangle 25 feet away from them to 33 feet away from them or something like that.
Yeah.
Then you're controlling your distance to within a foot or so.
So people need to practice their distance control. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, it's the number one thing for me in putting.
People actually go to the practice putting green. Like, it's a very rare thing that I see out there.
No, most people that go to the practice putting green just put balls down at 15 feet and roll putts to a hole and then whatever. But if you can practice actual distance control, you could be a good putter. Because I tell my kids and my players, if you misread a putt horribly, you might misread it by a foot or two. But if your distance control is still perfect or close, you still have a tap in. So
100%.
Next up, it's back to you, Tyson.
So yeah, as I said earlier, I think one of the most common things I see from a full swing perspective is poor arm structure. And I don't necessarily use this with every single player, but I like the ball drill between the arms to sort of accomplish the same thing. Usually sort of a 9-3 structure for that player who I'm trying to get to do 9-3 and just can't get it on their own without this ball between their arm. That's just an added piece to the puzzle for them to feel the arms shrinking together, the elbows get closer together. They've got something to squeeze. Sometimes I'll use a balloon. Got the Smart Ball and the Pro Cinder Sphere and a lot of other balls, if you will, to use. I just find it important for a lot of players to understand what that feel is. And if the ball drill works for that individual player, then I'm going to throw that ball in between the arms.
Yeah, I like it. Nothing better than having a really good arm structure in the golf swing for sure. So with the ball between your arms drill, do you ever have issues where players just don't have the mobility for that drill?
Every day. I think I had 2 guys today who I put the ball between the arms, and they literally can probably swing it back to 8 o'clock because they have no mobility. Sort of what I'll do with those guys is just sort of tell them, hey, it's okay if it separates a little bit through that part, but let's reconnect as we sort of come back down in through the golf ball. One of the reasons they have poor arm structure is because they have poor mobility. I'm not necessarily trying to force them to keep those pieces together, but when I see the lead arm breaking and the lead wrist breaking and the club head overtaking the hands through the strike with a low point 3 inches behind and a face that's 6 degrees closed, that guy needs to feel some amount of those arms staying a little bit more structured.
One of my concerns with that drill would be that we've all had people who you put them in some position at the top of the backswing and you can see they're almost shaking because they're trying to control everything. And so I don't necessarily love like people trying to squeeze elbows together because that can introduce kind of that shaking. And then they tend to, in my experience, almost release that then and let their elbows move well apart to start the downswing. So how do you deal with those kind of things?
So it definitely happens. I've seen it, and we all see those people literally shake to the point where they start sweating because they're trying to keep these pieces together so hard. And if I see it get to that point, literally I take the ball away and say, hey, can we try to feel some amount of that without the ball and see how much better we can make it? I'm never trying to put somebody in a position where they're going to compromise their health or their body, or that creates so much tension, as you said, they just dump it at the end, right? So you just move on. I've always been told from a lot of my mentors, like, we're professional guessers. Sometimes we guess that this is going to be a good drill for the player, and we guess wrong. So we need 5 new guesses to try to help that player get better, if you will. So there's always a plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D.
Right. Okay. Jayson, you have the 6th and final draft pick. A drill you love.
I'm going to have to go with kettlebell swings.
Kettlebells.
I took this from balls. Tyson's talking about balls. What am I going to do over here? When I watched Dr. Kwan, who's one of my favorite follows, if you don't follow him, beautiful ability to teach the golf swing through different movement patterns outside of actually swinging the club first, right? Can you move effectively within your body to generate the proper speed and tempos that you want in your swing? If you pick up something a little bit heavier, now your body has to go, all right, we don't want to injure yourself. What is the most effective way that we can move this slightly heavier? I don't want you to pick up like a 40-pound kettlebell. Even 5 pounds is a great start. Can you move this? And if someone's standing in front of you and it starts moving a kettlebell, you're going to see it instantly where they're just swaying, trying to hold this weight. Where if you start moving the pressures into the ground first to move it, it's way easier to control that weight. I like using it for 2 different ones. One, I like to use it for actually the pressure shift to start the golf swing. And then the other one that I often give it to for somebody that over swings because they just carry too much energy too late into the swing is I'll give them a really light kettlebell and I go, okay, if you want it to finish at the top of your backswing, could you swing this kettlebell to the top of your backswing? And they try it once and they get this like really over rotation and they're like almost going to fall over and they go, wait a second. No, I can't swing it to the top. I need to feel like I'm putting the brakes on sooner or, gathering at the top, whatever you want to call it. That is so easily felt when you put a little bit more weight in someone's hands. Then, of course, you obviously then want to take that drill and go, okay, now you got a golf club. How would you move this golf club just like you're moving that weight? And they go, oh, this is way easier. And it feels like I can put way more energy into the club earlier in the swing. And all of a sudden their club head speed just starts skyrocketing.
I have 2 questions. What weight?
Yeah, so I have 3 different in my studio. I start with a 5 pound, then I have a 10 pound, and I have a 20 pound. I usually only use the 5 pound for that last one where I was talking about. We're actually going to swing up to the top because I don't want it to obviously hurt anybody. But the 20 pounder I'll use as someone gets used to how to move the weight earlier in that swing. And you're going to see people literally getting 3 to 5 miles per hour on your 7-iron when you start properly shifting off the golf ball earlier.
Okay, my second question was, do you combine that with the bands across the tops of the knees?
I have, yes. Many of my drills go well together.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for the 3rd episode of the Spin Axis podcast. We thank you so much for listening. Do us a favor, subscribe, and share this episode with your friends and all over your social media.
You can find us at X, Instagram, Threads at This Spin Axis and online at thespinaxis.com.
Thanks for listening.